Hello everybody, welcome back to positionspecific.com and Coaching Journey 1. Just want to start this video off by apologising for the delay on week 23. We know it's been probably around a month, if not longer now, between the 2 weeks. So we do apologise for that. We did decide just to have a little bit of a break and then some certain things had gone on in our personal life. So we decided to just have a little bit more of a break than what we expected. So hopefully you'll understand. But we are back and we're up and running, and hopefully we'll get into the end of this season and then moving into the new season, which we currently already are in. We've got some great stuff to share with yourselves. So once we've done week 23 and 24, then we'll start to talk about some new ideas and see what you think moving forward for Coaching Journey 2. Also, I want to just say thank you to everybody for sending messages in and actually asking when we're going to upload week 23. We didn't realise how many people have actually been watching the videos and been following the programme. So it's been overwhelming with the message that we've had. It's been absolutely unbelievable, if I'm honest. So thank you again for sending your messages in. But I do apologise for the delay. And hopefully everyone will be happy that we're back up and running. So moving on to week 23 then. So if you're talking about the last journey, we knew we were building into two big games. So we'll have a look at the Man City game review of how we felt that went, the Manchester United game review, and then we're just going to look at some sessions leading into the second game against Man City, around some building the attack, some high pressing, and then what the Blackburn Rovers game plan is going to look like. So hopefully you enjoy this one, and let's move on. So on to the Manchester City game review then. So as everybody knows, we like to work out of a 4-3-3, then look for opportunities to go into a 3-4-3 if the system matchups are right. So starting off with the systems of play like we always do, we just needed to adjust the midfield. So as you can see there, we went to a 2 and a 1 in midfield, whereas Man City was stuck with their traditional 4-3-3. So if you're looking here, that gives us a +1, which we expected. When we're talking about the midfield matchup, we do understand that this is going to change as we go through the game. So it'll change from a 1 and a 2 to a 2 and a 1. But what we did is we set out, because we knew that they would have a nice high 8 and 10, we started with a 2 and a 1. We went with a -1. So overall, first couple of minutes when we knew that the system's matchups were fine, we were happy with that, and we just started to look at the fine detail within the game. So now looking at the attacking organisation, now what happened early doors is Manchester City caught us out with the wide jump press, and they actually got 2 early chances. So the first time that we built, we ended up losing the ball down our left-hand side, where you can see our fullback who got caught on the ball, then they broke on us, which was near enough man for man. Now we dealt with that one, but then the second one, the same thing happened, but on the other side, and then they had a really good chance. Now this was a moment where we needed to change quickly, because we knew if it was to happen again, chances are with Man City's quality, they were going to score. It was also good that our players started to recognise it and was getting ready to adjust as well. So when you're looking at this scenario here, it ended up being a 6v6 when building, and actually give us the +1 when in our attacking line. But obviously, because we didn't recognise it, we got caught on the ball. So for us, when we're building, this is sort of what we try to say to the players, is that we've deserved to go long now. So we've actually had the opportunity to draw out what the players that we wanted. Now we look to go long. It's just making sure that we recognise this. Now, what we did do is we slightly changed our defensive line to give us that first line, but also the opportunity to still play long. So in this scenario here, we realised that the right back was jumping more than the left back. So we asked our full back to create a 3. Now, keeping that structure high up the pitch, so not to lose sight of playing into the third line or beyond their defensive line, but to give us that first line free player. So to give you an example here, we've got the 3v2. Now, if the fullback was to jump this far, you're talking 40 to 50 yards between these two here. So if we pull the fullback high and then we go long, it's a bigger distance for the fullback to recover. So that was the idea behind it, and we started to cause problems with this. The other bit of information that we spoke about as well is if our left back comes down the side, can we play right or central on the first pass to try draw Man City in to then find the fullback? So that was just some details that we talked about as well. So it was really good, and we had to adjust quickly, and then that gave us sort of a bit of a foothold on building, and caused Man City a few problems. So then they had to look to adjust. Man City then did adjust, and then they started to jump press from their midfield. So as you can see here. Now what we knew then is when the fullbacks have got their mark locked onto them, we know that when there's pressure on the centre backs that we've got the spare in midfield. So then it's how can we get the midfield on the ball. So we're talking about the keeper being the free player, and trying to draw out this press and then find that spare man in midfield. So we got that message onto him straight away, and the keeper was really calm and collective in this, so it was good. We talked about dropping into a 2 and a 1. Like obviously, because what we do is in possession, we like to go to a 1 and a 2, but maybe just stay in that 2 and a 1 in midfield to give us that option on that second line to make sure that it's a shorter pass for the keeper. Still having the option as well if they want to clip it into the 7-11 to hit that third line to take out the press. But again, it was good. It's good for Man City that they adjusted, and then we adjusted quite quick. So it just kept us in control of that ball when in possession, which we like to do. So defensive organisation, if you look back at the game plan, there was a couple of scenarios that we worked through. Really, really good in terms of this. We're happy. We really pressed Man City. We caused problems. I mean, don't get me wrong, there was some really good bits of play from Man City where it was all really clean, fast play, which cut us open a few times. But like I always say, when you're playing against good sides, you've got to expect that, and it's about what do you do when they do break the lines, and it happened. But when they did, our team recovered well and never got fazed by it. And I think that's because, we're always talking about good teams will beat the press at some point, but sort of being more focused around the what ifs. So if they do break the press, do we stay calm and collective? So do we stay focused on what our job is? That's the key thing. So we did get caught. It wasn't really early in the game. It was probably moving towards half time. Their fullback did invert behind our 7, and the centre back played into him, and then the midfielders had decisions whether to change the mark. That's where we just talked about our 7-11 just starting on the inside. So if he does come in, he comes in onto you, and then if he plays wide, then you can go and press from there. So we dealt with that one after it happened the first time, which was good. And then just a couple of things that like the link pass. So we ended up sort of pushing on. So their 2 midfielders dropped in. So they went into like a 2 and a 1. And it was just the message to the midfield was just make sure that you get tight. Get tight to your man. When the ball shifts across, try to get on the inside shoulder so they can't spin you and get it out to the opposite side. And that was just some little bits of information to the midfield. We mentioned if they wasn't getting tight, then we'd change the personnel in there. So just make sure that you work as hard as possible. And if you are fatiguing, then we'll change you. We did actually drop into sometimes in the game, working in like a 4-4-2 because Man City like positional play around the 4, just sort of staying in them areas, just to have a little bit of a breather. And because, like I said, there's always going to be bits of quality from Man City where they break that press. We decided to give them a bit of a different problem. So we asked the 9 and 10 to just operate in and around the defensive midfielder and allow the centre-backs to have it. 7-11 come in, so then you start to work the channels. So we're trying to fill the 4 nearest channels to the ball. This was really, really good. It's a shame I can't show you some clips because the lads adjusted really, really well to this. And it just gives us a little bit of a breather when they're in possession. So we're doing less running. We didn't need to get us tight. We didn't need to track runners as much. It was just more of a case of being more of a zonal mid-block. And then what we do is we recognise the opportunities when the 9 or 10 then locks them in. That's where everybody gets on the front foot. Again, a shame I can't show you some videos because there were some really good examples of this. And it was credit to the boys because we've only briefly done bits on it. And we've only gone through it a couple of times in games. But we just felt it would be ideal for us not being sort of full throttle all the way through the game on the front foot because we were going to fatigue at some point, just to see if we could drop into this medium block and have a breather and then recognise the right times to do it. So again, credit to the boys for this. So overall in that game, we were happy with the performance. Loads of sort of little performance problems when we're talking about individual duels. Obviously, as you can imagine, they've got some top players. So there was little things that we had to change within the game in terms of maybe balancing out the 1v1 duels. But we obviously didn't want to go into this too much. Overall, looking at the systems and the in possession, out possession, we were happy how we dealt with the performance problems and how we took some of the stuff that we did in training last week into the game. So defensive transition will below our target. With this, we actually went with the 75% target for the defensive transition, defensive organisation, attacking transition. And then obviously with our attacking organisation, it's 35% up. Reason why we did that is because we knew that the quality would be slightly different. So we wanted to give them something to the hit. So if you're going to hit 85% for these big games, it's going to be difficult. So we did actually use targets of 75%. So looking at defensive transition again, obviously we was below target there, but I think that was just due to their quality when the ball was turned over. So their personal possession of staying on the ball, finding the free player. Now, if you don't know what our targets are, one of our targets is to try and win the ball back within 3 passes in defensive transition. Now, the second objective to that is to stop them playing forward, which I felt that we did really well. So in terms of winning back in 3 passes, we didn't quite get there, but stopping them from playing forward, we did, which was really good. So overall on defensive transition, it's not too bad. Defensive organisation, we were happy with that. We're winning the ball back consistently in the top 2/3. Even when they were forcing it into the 9, we dealt with that and picked up the bits. So really happy with that one on how the team operated in the defensive organisation. Attacking transition, good. We found the free player quickly. Our personal possession was good, so we're happy with that. And then attacking organisation, it was obviously close to the target. But again, you're going to get this when you're playing against quality sides. You're not going to be getting high scores on this. You're going to have limited chances. But with us getting into that final third over 35% of the time, within our attacking organisation shows that we had good control of possession, and we saw the right opportunities to break their defensive line and get in and around the box. So happy with the game. It was a cracking game, and obviously it'll be interesting to see how they change for the return leg, which is next week. So now moving on to the Manchester United game review. What a week for the boys, if I'm honest. Getting the opportunity to play against Manchester City and Man U in the same week is a really, really good challenge, but something that we've been looking forward to. We put really good performance in against Man City midweek. So how do we take that into playing on a weekend? I've sort of used the scenario with the boys around it being like a Champions League experience in terms of prepping for a big game midweek and then prepping for a big game on the weekend. So that's sort of the scenario that we've gone with. And I think so far that we've been happy where they're at and what trainings look like. And then obviously the performance from Man City, can we then lead that into the Manchester United game with slight tweaks? So working out of a 4-3-3, then looking for opportunities to go into a 3-3-1-3 or a 3-4-3, depending on where the space is on which line. So looking at the system matchups, so We know that they weren't going to change much. We know how they play because we've played them a few times now. We were going to work out that 4-3-3 to start with, knowing that they'd work predominantly out of a 4-2-3-1. So again, you've got the +1, got the equal numbers in midfield, and then the -1. So everybody should be getting familiar with this now on how we like to operate. So in terms of the attacking organisation, I felt that we got control of possession really, really quick because we were using the free player on our defensive line and midfield line really well. This is something that we've worked on though before when we've prepped for these. So it was just a subtle reminder throughout the week of what we were looking for. They look to press from their cam. And then we look for opportunities for how our 4 can get on the ball, as you can see there. Now, how we like to do it is the 2 centre-backs will then start to work slightly wider. Your goalkeeper will try to work between the 2 pressing players, and then you're looking at the 4. Now, what we say to the 4 is stay in the pocket like a quarterback. So try to stay in that pocket to start with. So if we can break the line of the 2-man press and receive it and get on the turn, then brilliant. Now, what we've got to be aware of is the jump press from the next line. So making sure that the 4's always side on, can see where the ball is and can see where the next move is and where the danger's coming from. Now, if they start to jump press from there, so he starts to find that he hasn't got the space on that first line, then we know that someone's jump pressing. Now, what we said is in the scenario, once we started to get control, and if they're starting to jump press from midfield, then just start to create a 3. So the 4 can start to operate on the defensive line, or he can still work in between them, but just a lot deeper. So if they have been asked to jump press, that distance becomes a lot bigger, which then gives us opportunity to break the line. Once we started to get control here, which we did, we started to concentrate on the rotations. So starting to look at the detail of that, which I asked the coaches to be aware of. So looking at the clockwise and anti-clockwise rotations, the timing of it, who's been the free player majority of the time. So what you'll find is when you're asking the opposition to rotate as a 3, someone usually switches off. So we were looking for regular patterns to see which one did switch off. So giving an example, if the 11 comes on the inside, so 11 comes on the inside and the fullback stays because of him, then that's the free player. So we'll give passing the message on to see if they can recognise to find him. It might be that the fullback goes with him and then the wide forward switches off, so our fullback's in, so we look for the longer one. So hopefully you get an idea of that. If they stay locked on and we don't have the opportunity to play in there, then we look to recycle and build, or we play the longer one. The reason why we play the longer one is because it's into space, and then we'll take the territory, if that makes sense. So, but we used this really well and caused quite a lot of problems, and that helped us get into that final third within control of the ball as well. Defensive organisation. So we had a performance problem early doors, and again we've had this a few times, but and being honest, it was something that we didn't really have a chance to speak about too much. But we found that it was more in the transition, not so much the defensive organisation, but I just wanted to link it together. So what they did is when we was attacking, they was brave and left players high up the pitch. So when we're talking about them rotations that we run about earlier, the actual free player was our fullback. So the opportunity to play along, which we did quite a bit. When we got it wrong, or when they swept up possession, then they'd look to break quickly. So they always had their 9 high up the pitch. They'd usually leave 7 or 11 high up the pitch, sometimes both. And then the 10 would always be close to the 9. So when they got it, they'd break on us quickly. So we knew straight away that we had to really talk about the structure below the ball when we're attacking. It was a real key point for us to try sustain like waves of attacks. So some of the message that we spoke about was the 4 making sure that he's goal side of the cam majority of the time. Fullbacks being really clever on when they do go, and if we do, one only goes. So once we got that structure right, it just helped and tried to lock them in. But there's always going to be opportunities where when you're playing against quality teams like this, where they will find that pass because of the quality of player. And obviously when they find them, they've got the personal possession and skills to actually cause problems, which again, we know that when you're playing top teams, you're going to come up against these problems. But it's clear what we want to try and get across to our players is that it's going to happen, but how do we deal with it? And that's the big thing. And to be fair to him, it was a bit like early in the game. There was a couple of big chances either way, but we sort of adjusted quite quickly, so we were happy with that. What Man United did do at half time, they caught us out and made a substitution, like a big target player, but he was a good player. They went to a 4-4-2 straight after half time and actually scored from it. They missed out the press quickly and got it into the front line, and we should have recognised it, that they had an opportunity within probably 20 seconds. And then literally after that, when the ball turned over again, it was probably a minute in, they scored. Now, we were sort of disappointed as staff that we didn't recognise it quick enough. I mean, we're only talking 1 minute after half time, so maybe we're being a bit harsh on ourselves, but it was something that we had to make a decision on very, very sharp. And this was credit to the players because of the control that they had. And I think if you're asking questions of the opposition manager and they're changing, then that's credit to the stuff that we've been doing. But what they did is then they asked us a question and got a goal from it. So it was credit to them as well. So it was good work. Instantly, what we did is we actually changed personnel and went to sort of 3 centre backs and got control of the game straight away. Again, I wish I could show you some clips of like that sort of minute and then what it looked like after, but we started to really dominate this possession here. And then obviously we were then starting to operate into like a 3-4-3. So we started to ask the 7-11 in possession to become inside and work the pockets and then push the fullbacks right on. And we really started to cause problems and got good control of possession of the ball and scored. It was an excellent goal later on in the game as well. So good adjustment again. But credit to Manchester United for throwing that problem at us and getting a goal from it. But this is why we enjoy doing these types of things and sort of reviewing it and then looking back. Collectively, if we're talking as a group, really good performance from the boys again. And to say that the week they've had and the sort of the demands of what it's like to play against a Man City and a Man U within the same week. And like I said, it's sort of been like a Champions League week. I thought we dealt with it really well. Looking at the stats here, defensive transition similar to the Man City game. There was more around personal possession. You know, when they sort of win possession, it's hard to win it on that first and second pass because of the quality that they've got. But the secondary sort of role behind that is to stop them from playing forward, which we didn't do in the early stages because that was part of their game plan and obviously they played in. But then as we started to develop, that got better. Defensive organisation, so anything after 3 passes or dead ball situations, then we were quite comfortable. We caused problems. We won the ball back in the top 2/3, so we're good with that. Attacking transition, we used the defensive line really well. So in the first half, we used the centre backs and the 4 slightly higher really well. In the second half, we used the back 3 and the keeper well to sort of get control of the game. And then our attacking organisation was higher than Man City game, and I think that was due to us once we found the free play getting into that final third with a riving run. So that was good. So, like I said, overall, really happy with this game and how the week went. So, but credit to the players, if I'm honest, because they've took on a lot of information and worked the socks off. So, looking at week 23 and what it looks like in and around the sessions, similar to sort of last week, not too many sessions because obviously we've got double game week. What we wanted to do is squeeze in a session before Man City because we wanted to do some tactical work around some of the performance problems, mostly around how to break their double press, if I'm honest. So it was just more of a shadow session because obviously the double game week the week before. Then we'll give you a bit of an insight on the little bits that we put into the the game plan for Man City. Then we'll look at an out of possession session, and it's just more of a reminder. So we're switched on to our defensive work moving into Blackburn. Now, Blackburn are a really, really good side. One of the better sides around at this age group. So we knew that this was going to be as challenging as any other game that we've had over the last week. So we just wanted to make sure that our defensive stuff was right. So looking at session 1, beating Manchester City's high press. I've just put it in sort of this scenario so I can talk through it with you rather than a video. So what we wanted to do is go after one performance problem, and that was like Manchester City sort of jump pressing from central areas. So we set up this little game here, and we only worked off like 2-minute spells of playing, and then about a minute and a half of rest time, where we could get in some of our tactical points just to make sure that we didn't overload the body. So the objective for the Yellows was to score in the 3 goals. They could score in the 3 goals from anywhere. There was small goals, but we also give them the opportunity, if they wanted to dribble across the halfway line, that they could score. If they dribble across the halfway line or find a pass across the halfway line and score in a goal, we'd give them like a bonus point. The objectives for the Reds was to work off the confrontation line. We would then manage the Reds to sort of replicate some of the stuff that City would do. But overall, when they win the ball, they're looking to score, and that's where we'll play live. Obviously, the strategy for the Reds was to jump press from central areas, so we had one coach sort of looking at that. The structure or the things that we were looking at was the jump press from the centre forward in Cam, and then the same scenario but with a DM jumping on as well, so that our midfielder doesn't become spare. So performance problems could be as well as the centre back could step up, which means there's no spare player on the first or second line. And then they could start to look to jump press from the side, which we've seen them do a couple of times. So something that we wanted to get to towards the end of the session. So we started the ball from a right back scenario, and we could ask the right back to play right centre back to left centre back, or we could just go straight into left centre back. We wasn't too fussed how that worked. Reason why we did this is because Man City tended to jump press from the centre forward in Cam in that scenario. So when it was a throw in or fullback was recycling it, that's where they tended to jump from there. When it was the keeper, sometimes would jump from the side or central area. But that's why we started from this scenario. So some of the stuff that we started to look at was like making sure that one of the midfielders starts high and then he tries to slide off the side of the press, and to see if he could become that spare body on that first line. Also making sure that one of our attacking midfielders become quite high, and making sure that we can offer that sort of second line or support the third line pass. This all depended on their right forward as well. So if the right forward was narrow, then we'd have to use the full back. If he stepped out, then we'd look to play in between. So some of the detail that we talked about in the session as well was like the full back maybe dropping deeper or pushing really, really high. So not being in between. So if the fullback, if their wide forward is man marking you, play with them. So drop deeper to try draw them out, or go really, really high to create that space for the centre midfielder. So that was some of the scenarios that we looked at. If the defensive midfielder got across quickly, then we'll be looking to go into that second line or try to go into the top line to link into our like sort of Cam. Now this, I'm just using the scenario here as our centre back, but this could also be our full back playing this ball. This could be our goalkeeper playing this ball. So we're always looking for opportunities to see if we can play into that midfielder. The next bit was we then threw in another scenario. We actually got the centre back to step on. We did the first part we did is we told the Reds to do this without telling the Yellows, which was interesting because the Yellows got caught out on the first couple. They tried to play into midfield and then they broke and then actually scored, which was great. It was perfect for us because that's what we were looking for. That's when we then posed the question to the boys of like, well, now what's happening? What are you seeing? And then we slowed it down and went through it a little bit. And basically, we just talked about if an opposition or Man City press like this, then it's credit to us because we've shown our qualities of building. Now we start to hit the third line because that's where we've got equal numbers. And there's nothing wrong with that. Because if that's where the space is, then that's where we're going to play. So we then threw this scenario on a couple of times, and then we also did some little tweaks. We didn't have much time on it, but we started to just get them to jump press from the 7-11. So a really good session, but it was real slow pace. A lot of tactical work for the players, but seemed to take it on board, apart from this bit where we caught them out a little bit, which was really good, to be fair. So looking at the game plan going into that now, I'm not going to run through the full structure. I just want to show you one little video which we added to the game plan from the previous game. So this was just a video that we showed them previous. So we showed them before the session that you've just seen, and then we added to the game plan. So beating that press. So this was just a couple of clips of where we had the scenario. So the ball starting in the wide area, which we talked about in the session. We've circulated the ball across, and I just want to pause it there. But they've gone into a full sprint, and it's credit to them. That's the centre forward. That's the midfielder pressing. So a couple of things here, and this is where the scenario. The pass needs to come here rather than the keeper. If the keeper does get it, then he's got to look to hit the lines. But these were just the scenarios of why we started to come up with it. So you can see here. So the ball's been too slow, if I'm honest. Midfielder was actually doing what we asked him to do anyway. The problem is our other two midfielders are too close. So the other one needs to be here to try and create the space, get them to get on the front foot. So that was some of the stuff where I went into the detail. So there, the jump. That's the scenario that we're trying to look at. So maybe the 10 being in, but we had too many bodies in that area. Not bad from the fullbacks. He's deep and he's scanning. So then if he's narrow, like I said to you, we give it to our fullback. If he comes wide, then we potentially could play the midfielder if we sort of stretch this midfield more. Again, just the same one. Again, it started wide. It's come across the pitch. This time went centre back to centre back, which I prefer, but the pass needs to be quicker. And then this is what we're looking for. So the fullback here can either be really high and he can roll in, which is fine, so he can pin. And when we're talking about pinning, that means we can hit that third line and then link off the spare player, or the fullback can come low. Now, what we tend to do sometimes with the fullbacks, and it works really well in the game, is we'll play feet and then play one of the double passes, which is good. But this is just shows what we're looking at. So as you can see here, that's a spare body. So we're asking him to operate in this area here to see if we can find him. It's a good angle press, to be fair, from them, but I still think it's on because we could have gone to keeper, centre back, or straight through, just to give you that option. And then he's obviously in this video, he's gone and played in there, which if we hit that line there, I think we're causing problems. But obviously in this scenario, we want him pinned, maybe the wide player coming in as well. So we're really occupying them players and we're backing ourselves on our personal possession. Just wanted to show you two quick clips. Now this was something that we talked about. This was a video, so some of the stuff that we worked on in that session, which I didn't go into too much, but an adaptation is to roll into a 3. Them two players operating early and then really flatten out their back line, so the fullback really high. So when I talked about the fullback being really high or low, this scenario's like giving them really high. Now this midfielder now can come out and drag the space. So as you can see here, so what you'll get is if the midfielder comes out and he goes with him, that frees up your 10. So it's more space than that video that we just showed you. So this was just something that we spoke to the players about as well. If it stays in, then it's free. You got your little 2v1 or 3v2 scenario down the side. So that was just one scenario that we spoke about briefly as well. So hopefully that just gives you a bit of an idea of why we went after this. So looking at session 2, so the defensive organisation. So this is obviously after the Man City game, but we'll review that in the next video. And we'll talk about the sessions now, how it was moving forward. So like I said to you, we just wanted to give a bit of a recap on things. We like to go over things all the time so we don't forget it. As a coach, I've done it probably a million times in my career where I think we've nailed something and then I put it to one side and then suddenly 2 or 3 weeks later, that performance problem comes up. You've got to keep running over things. And that's why when going into this game here, we needed to make sure that we're on it, especially against Blackburn Rovers. So we needed to work some of the defensive stuff. So just looking at the practice now, we just wanted to do a press and fail, but have the keepers involved. So it's just a simple little pass across. On the second pass, the player jumps, takes a tight touch, and then the player 1-2. Now, the idea behind this is that the defender gets beat. So we don't want them to tackle. We want them to step out and shadow defend, and then overstep and then recover. So it's actually back pressure. Then we want to put pressure on the attacker from behind. We're looking at the clean actions here. So the clean pass, clean one in there, but we're actually focusing on this bit here. So how they twist their hips and then explode out to try get contact back on the attacker. And just to press and fail. And then that's a live game from there. Just get the players into good habits, work specific techniques. We know that Blackburn are quite strong physically, so there'll be a lot of spells where they break our 1v1 duel. So it's not about them sort of breaking the duel, it's about what it looks like after. So we felt that we'd put this session on. So just looking at the second session then, little change in the mark practice, something that we designed earlier on in the coaching journey. So anybody who's been watching them will be familiar with the practice. So we break it up into 3 parts. The first part is just these circulating the ball and then playing across to the top. So what we was trying to sort of replicate is a centre back into midfield who then links it to the free player, which could be the full back, if that makes sense. So that was a scenario that we wanted to try create. So example here, plays into midfield and then plays out to, let's say, the full back for this scenario. Full back then takes the ball forward and then plays in. All we're looking at is just clean passing actions. So receiving and releasing, little bits of movement before, and working at high speeds. You can rotate the groups if you want, or you can be specific with what you're going after. So you might have your centre backs and deep line midfielders here. You might have your full backs or midfielders on either side. It's up to you how you want to manage it. For this one, we just had everyone rotating. Now, let me just go back slightly. Just want to show you what we did on part 2. So part 2, we took a ball away and we had one team starting off defending and one team playing. So give you that picture now. So the midfielder just plays it back. So that's just an initial pass. So that's just a start pass to the centre back. Our then wide forward jump presses and our fullback goes with them and the midfielder gets tight. So hopefully you can sort of paint that picture in your mind of what this looks like. So imagine this is the left centre half receiving the ball and our right forward's going to jump press and this is their left back and our fullback's going to jump onto him. So as you can see, the ball in. So there's your picture. Now, what we wanted to do is this to be like a shadow play. So be aggressive with your press, do the right action at the right intensity, but we're not looking to win the ball. All right, and this will eventually turn into a 3v3. So change the mark, but make sure that the angle of the run's right. So you're blocking that pass. Ready to find the mark and step on and get tight, and then ready to change the mark so that they're coming off their wide forward. Ball gets played in. Plays the ball out. And that's the scenario that we're trying to create. So again, we're trying to lock them in now and then block the forward pass, press and block. So now they're recovering on the run, but they're still trying to stop the ball going from the fullback to the centre half. And then we're locking these in. So we're making sure that they can't receive this ball. The game now turns into a 3v3. So this is where it's live. The Reds will just look to dribble the ball across the bottom line. If Whites win it, they'll look to dribble across the line. And you can put little goals in if you want to, but this was just a little practice that we wanted to put in around changing them out. We had multiple sessions set up. So we had another one set up to the left-hand side, working the same thing. So same scenario, ball goes in, ball gets played out. So this is all shadow play, but making sure it's real. It turns into a 3v3 game. Just one thing that we did put in there is as an option is if we're struggling to sort of break that line and they were staying in the 3v3 for quite a while, would then say to the Whites, if you can get 3 passes, that gets you a point. That's the end of the game. Reason why we would add that is because what you might find is they'll stay in the 3v3 game for a long time when actually we're trying to work the detail of changing the mark. So we want to spend more time on what the press looks like, cutting out the angles, the intensity of it, the body shape when you get there, rather than the actual 3v3. But it's up to you how you want to manage it. It just gives you an idea. For part 3, we take one player out and it turns into a 3v2. So it's the same scenario. So the 7 presses, but you imagine in this game now that the fullback's staying at home, which sometimes that we like to do. So if they've got real fast forwards or their winger's one of their best players, then there's no point jump pressing from your fullback, because if you leave him and he gets on it, he's going to cause you loads of problems. If you look back at the Liverpool team when they won the Premier League, they was really good at this. So they were really good at keeping the defensive line solid and compact, working the 4 nearest channels, but jump pressing from their front line and midfield. And midfielders doing a lot of the side channel space. So, and I'll show you now slightly what we're talking about. So the ball goes in, it's the same scenario, but this time when the ball gets passed in there and gets played out, now we're looking at the change of the mark. So the midfielder goes and presses. Now what we're saying here is that the 7 recovers on the inside and then we'll leave their deepest player. So we're trying to get into a position where we stop them from progressing with the ball. All right, but we're getting people into good habits. So this change of the mark, if it's a slow pass, they go direct to try and win it. If it's a fast pass, then the retreat to stop the forward momentum. Similar 7, that's got to be a sprint recovery. Now, if you're imagining the game, or if anybody's been watching the journey, will understand that in this process, our 9 would have got across the pitch by now. So we'll have had them locked in. So it would have been a 3v3. But just for this practice, we wanted to just really work with a midfielder and the wide forward. So now, same principle. So 3v2, they're looking to get across, and then Whites, if they win it, they can look to get 3 passes or dribble across the line. You can have target players, again, like you say, you can tweak the session however you want. So you might put a coach there, so if the Whites win it, they can look to play forward. That's up to you. But that's just a little session that we designed around our philosophy. The players are starting to get used to it, so they know the process of it. It's just making sure that you get the detail right. And like I said before, it's just a recap of running over the stuff to make sure that the players remember some of the work that we've done previously in the season. So practice 3, just moving into 11v11. We're talking about jump pressing from a medium block. Again, what we're trying to say is that we understand that Blackburn are one of the strongest teams at this age group. There might be a point of fatigue at some point with the amount of games that we've played. So we wanted to revert back to the bit where I spoke about Man City before, where there was a spell where we dropped into like a medium block. So we thought, well, let's sort of go through some stuff with the lads just in case that we do sort of have a physical dump and we're struggling a little bit and we might need to sort of sit in and have a breather depending on the game. So we thought we'd work from a medium block. 3 games, what we started off with, and then we did some unbalanced stuff. So the first game will start from the coach. The Whites will operate in this area here. So we're trying to work between 30 to 40 yards from the back line to front line. The coach will fire the ball into the centre backs, and then they'll play across and we'll allow it. Now we want to use this as a confrontation line, so we're actually working on sliding, screening, making sure we're compact. If you put the channels in, we're working the 4 nearest channels to the ball, and it's more of a zonal work, if I'm honest, giving them the outsides. Now, one of the little things that we spoke about was the desire to go across the pitch. So a little thing from Dick Bate, what he used to always talk about was go together, stay together, arrive together, something that I love, and it's always sat with me. And that's the stuff that we talked about that's married up with a desire. So you've got to have the desire to get across the pitch and cut out them sort of spaces in between. So these were the types of things that we worked on in here. So deny the space to get through. And now what we don't want to do is spend too long in these areas. We don't want to spend too long in this medium block, because if a team starts to shift the ball from side to side with pace, we then can become fatigued in that as well. So once we move the ball into a wide area at some point, so if they switched it once, then that's where we'll start to then look to jump press. So get the pressure on, lock them in, and then the 7 divides the 2. All right, so that's what we looked at. So that's game 1. If Whites win the ball, then they look to score in the goal. Reds are obviously predominantly looking to score in the goal as well. Game 2 will be from a throw-in at the side. So just a little throw and we'll play from there. In this video, it just shows them scoring, which is not a problem. But what we're saying is if they do find the free play and there's no pressure on the ball, then we need to retreat collectively. Game 3, we'll start from this side throwing, and we'll go from there. Now that can be a throw-in or a goal kick, and then we'll start to work like jump presses and what it looks like. So once we've worked 5 minutes in that medium block and screening and forcing the play, then we'll start to look at jump pressing from the 7, 11 and 10. Something that isn't in this video is that we actually flipped the shapes halfway through. So after 20 minutes, we did the same thing, but we started to operate out of a 3-3-1-3. Just to give you an example, because we felt that Blackburn might play a 4-diamond-2. So we spent a little bit of time working on that, which isn't in this video, but I'll explain a little bit more as we move on. So that was the practice leading into Blackburn. It was good. It was good to run through some stuff and recap over some of the defensive stuff. And like I've said earlier in the video, that it's something that you need to do. Trust me. Like I said to you, I've made many mistakes before on thinking that the team have got it sorted and we've nailed it, and then suddenly that performance problem jumps out at you and costs you in a game. And it's easy enough complaining to the players and saying that ain't good enough, but as a coach, you've got to reflect first and say, well, we haven't worked on that for a couple of weeks, so that's my fault. So good to run through some stuff and try to get the players in a defensive sort of mindset going into the Blackburn game to make sure that we don't make some mistakes early doors. So looking at the game plan, again, I'm not going to put loads of stuff into it. I just want to go over a couple of little things that we've changed. I know that you're familiar with the game plan and what it looks like now, and we've chopped and changed it just so so users and audience can see certain parts of the game plan. I don't want it to become repetitive where we're just talking about the same thing every single week, but we'll just sort of drip feed some bits that we've changed. So 4-3-3 is normal, looking for opportunities to go into a 3-3-1-3 or a 3-4-3, depending on what the opposition are playing. So I just want to look at the defensive organisation, and this is what I'm talking about. So we have the 4-3-3 in the game plan, but we wanted to talk about the 4-3-1-2, so the diamond. And just to give you an idea of what we did. And this was some of the work that went into that session that we've just run through. So when we're talking about them playing in here, the same picture with our front three. So divide, divide, divide. Then we're looking to lock on in here and then the +1 at the back. And this was just to paint some pictures on what it might look like if they're playing that. If they're playing a 4-2-3-1 or 4-3-3, we're happy with that because we just revert back to what we've been doing most of the season. So this is the picture here. So now we're looking at the 9 to lock in, keep them down this side, make sure that you can get pressure on the ball, stay with your mark on here, make sure that we're ready to deal with aerial duels, sort of knowing how they're playing physically, how strong they are. So 2 can get tight, 1 can cover, making sure that we're really tight and compact in here. Opposite side to divide the 2 so you can help your 9 or deal with your mark if they get out. And then if we do force the ball wide, that's where we're looking at sort of getting on the inside shoulder or screening to screen to stop them from switching the play. Really compact, working, you know, 3 out the 5 channels if you can. And that's really, really good distances for worst case scenario. And we're just looking to win. So that's just a quick video, just a reminder to show the players. But like I said, we did some work on this in the session previously. And then just one scenario of like if we're building in this picture here. So obviously because we're playing a 3, so we're looking for players to be beside or beyond our mark, which you can see here. You can pause the video and have a look through. Outside shoulder, divide, keep it. And then obviously we're looking for beside and beyond your mark. And then we're looking to pin that back line. If you'd have seen some of the videos that we spoke about as well, somewhere in the journey, we've showed you some sessions on how to break the line against a 2. So predominantly what we're trying to do is keep these away and let the 4 take out the 2. That's including your keeper. So the first one that we look at is the ball gets shifted in, and then can our central centre back win the back of the press? something that you've got to be aware of is if these jump press. Now, usually if they've got a player up against them or alongside them, they're reluctant to jump. And if they do, that we know that the spare player's on the next line, if that makes sense. So the real simple process is that one. If we can do it, we'll do it. We can recycle back through the keeper. If not, real simple one where we can break the line. The other one that we're looking for is play on the central player first to draw them in and then find the free player. But something that we've worked on with the players before, so it's not alien to them. You know, they're used to doing it. They've seen the messages before and they've actually worked on it. What we're saying is once we've broke that line, or what does it look like in front of us? Now, are they starting to jump press? If they do, then can we slide and find the free player? If they're compact, what type of rotations that we're looking at? So again, real simple rotation is your side diamond can go into a fullback position, which frees up that space. And as you can see, that's a connection between the 2 and 7. And then also, you know, something that we've done before is we've played with a fake 9 in this position. So the fake 9 just picks off the pockets once we've created the space. So we talk about going into wide areas a lot from the side of the diamond to then create space for the 9 to come in. If the centre back comes all the way in, then you're looking at that opportunity to break that third line. So it was just some bits that we spoke about. And here's the other type of rotation to try and draw them out. Nothing dissimilar to what we work on anyway in a 4-3-3. So hopefully that just gives you a couple of ideas around that. I know if you've been following the journey, you'll have seen some of this stuff before, which is good. But it was just a sort of reminder to the players of that this is what we might be playing against, looking at some of the footage. So before we wrap the video up, I just wanted to make you aware of what's on our website at the moment. So we do have a deal on our 2 defensive midfielder books, in and out of possession. If you haven't yet gone on and downloaded these for £5, get on and do it. You know, it's much appreciated having your support. Like I say, we want to try to keep everything cost effective in terms of just sort of being able to fund our website. We're trying to put some things into place where we can expand our website and looking at adding more content to it. So it's much appreciated when you do go on and support the books and everything that we've got on there. We've had some great feedback from everybody in terms of like coaches and players and managers around some of the stuff that we've done in the midfielders book. You know, how it's helped them as a coach and it's helped them as a player, which is really, really good stuff and good things to hear. If you haven't yet left any comments on there, get your comments on. It's much appreciated. And that can be things that you feel that we need to add as well moving forward. Because remember, we're just trying to put things together for users and audience. It's not about us. It's about sharing stuff that you want to see. So again, any feedback is good for us. On there, we've also got the free downloadable content. So we've got the centre forward, the poacher, which is a slight smaller version of the midfielders books, but it just gives you an idea of what we see around a poacher and quite a few sessions in there for you as well. So if you haven't yet downloaded that, get on there. And then also we've got the Connecting Coaches book. This isn't sort of tied in with any of our philosophy. This was just something that we put out to the audience, and then people sent in sessions from around the world, and then we added it, and then we just uploaded it for use to download. There's some good sessions in there, random practices around unit work, but there's some good takeaway stuff on there. So if you haven't yet done that, make sure you get on there and download them. We will look to maybe doing a Connecting Coaches too, if you think it's worthwhile. If you do, then make sure you leave them comments as well and let us know how you want this to look moving forward. We also have our blogs on there around the 10 systems. So when you're watching the coaching journey, you'll listen to us about what we're talking around the systems and making sure that we've got the +1, -1. If you want to get a better insight, go and have a little read of the 10 systems. They're not long blogs, they're very short. But from the feedback that we've got, people have enjoyed reading them because they're just really short and sweet and get to the point and help them out as coaches. So if you haven't yet been on and read them and left comments, make sure you get on and you do that for us now. So I just want to wrap it up by saying thank you again to everybody's messages for when we've had a bit of a break. Like I said, it's phenomenal to think that the amount of people who have been watching the video and using some of our content, and it's really much appreciated. Like I said, we should be back into a bit of a rhythm now. I'm pretty sure most people understand that we've moved into the next season because of the time scale where we're at. So I will be looking to maybe try wrap it up in week 24. So it might be a bit of a longer video. So we'll look to review the Man City Blackburn game, talk about how the training week went into Chelsea, and then maybe just review that as we go through it rather than putting the game plan together and then wrap it up. What I want you to start thinking about, if you can, as an audience, is just letting us know what you want coaching journey to look like. So what are the things that you want us to keep in there? Is there anything that you want us to change? And also any ideas around what you'd like us to add. So what we can start doing is starting to shape what the coaching journey looks like moving forward, but to support your learning. So any feedback in there will be much appreciated. You can either leave your comments below in this video or just send us a message on any of the social media platforms, or send us an email. And hopefully you've enjoyed this video and took something from it as well. If there is any questions, just leave them below and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. If you haven't yet liked the video, make sure that you do. Let's show your support for the channel. And I still know there's a lot of people watching the videos who haven't subscribed. Press that subscribe button, it's free. And again, that just shows your support for the channel. So thank you again, and we'll see you next week.